All right, I have 6:30, actually 6:31. So I want to officially call this meeting of the Downtown Development Authority to order. Does anybody need an agenda? I've got a couple extras here. You do? Okay. All right. So you've had a chance to look at the agenda, though, and so I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion. Can I hear a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Okay, let's move on down the agenda then. Let's note that we have a quorum and take note in the minutes of who was here. I sent you the copies of the minutes from the January, is it 16th?
Yes, sir.
January 16th and March 6th minutes. And so would I ask if anyone has questions or comments or corrections to those?
Move to approve in totem.
Okay, we have a motion to approve both sets of minutes. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Treasurer's report. What have you got for us, Tara?
I have no transactions.
Okay.
We have $22,757.46.
And it's just the one account, right? There's nothing in the other account?
Yep, just one account. We don't have two accounts anymore.
Okay,
And I went and signed that paperwork with Mandy.
great, thank you. Any other comments or questions on the treasurer report? Okay. I think this is just a report, there's no action required on that. Okay, let's move into old business then, website update. Jamie, have you got anything for us tonight?
Yes, sir. Spoke with Kyle and with Danny. Things are underway. The city is going through some changes on the overall website right now. So our changes will be toward the end of that process. As the new site is massaged, our stuff will be integrated into that process.
Okay,
Trying to think if there's anything specific.
When did you talk to them?
Here just this week.
Well, when Brax and I were at our meeting, they told us that Kyle hadn't heard from anybody from us since he met with Dana, and they've outsourced their website and suggested we do our own. The city is not doing their own website.
As of a conversation both yesterday and today, that is not my understanding.
That's what Danny told us. He said they just redid their whole website with another company because it was too intricate for them. They didn't want to take on the intricacies. And so, I mean, he said we maybe could still use Kyle, but he called Kyle while we were there, and Kyle was like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, Kyle and I have spoken, and they're building us a page. And we will have access to be able to change pictures and things on that
yeah.
page.
I spoke to Danny about it too, and Kyle was in the room. And he said, we're having our website redone. And as soon as we finish, we'll get your page added. And we'll give somebody access to it so you can change pictures, change information.
And that was after Brax and I were there on
Yeah,
Friday?
that was this week.
That's crazy. Yeah, he called Kyle in front of us, and he was like, I met with Dana and someone else a long time ago, but no, I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
And to that point, he had not done anything at this point.
Okay.
So
My understanding is it'll be a little over a month. just
rough,
over
that's my
when we
understanding
finish.
as well.
Okay.
And that we will also have the ability to be hands-on in any changes and additions and stuff like that as
Right.
well.
Okay.
I suppose anyone looking for the DDA can key on a particular piece and it'll go right to y'all's page, I assume.
Yes, and there is a little bit of information already up there, but it's not, it's more or less placeholders and things like that, just a little information. Basically saying that the LDA has turned into a downtown development authority. Giving some of that and basically saying, hey, stay tuned.
Okay, so we'll continue to press on that.
Yes, sir.
Work plan review. Anybody have any updates they'd like to give on our work plan, progress on the work plan? I have copies here if you want to see it.
As far as the lighting, I think I was on there for lighting for downtown.
Yeah.
I've spoken with several municipalities, one of them being Oxford. Oxford bought their own because they have their own utility company, so it's pretty expensive. But he did give me some ways that we might go working with the power companies. And in my meeting the other day with Danny gave me a contact for Georgia Power, so I'm going to follow up with that.
Okay, very
That's where
good.
we stand on that.
So we'll make sure that's marked in progress.
And I also talked with Christie, we're still on for the morning mingle
In November?
in November, unless somebody drops out before.
Right. Right. Okay,
Can I caution you on one thing?
yeah,
Some of those places where you might want a light are gonna be adjacent to private property. So you gotta get their permission before you go into walls and things,
Well, we were talking about street post lighting and stuff.
okay?
The biggest, and the city manager for Oxford pointed out the biggest holdback they had, and as Danny pointed out too, has been DOT permitting. That it takes a long, long time to do that. So if we do it on the side of the roads from here down, with any new, what we'd like to see is lighting, like an old town lighting, and it's consistent with what the library puts up in 254 all the way down, plus redoing something downtown. That's what I was working on,
You've got a lot of issues with wiring.
yes.
All our wiring's up top of the post. But
okay.
I wish you all the success in the world.
I think this is gonna have to be an iterative thing where we see what develops downtown and we see, you know, if there are standards developed for lighting, and then put together something to incentivize business owners to standardize their lighting with the overall downtown approach. So, okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to address the second to last item on the plan, the work plan,
okay,
which is in regard to developing a marketing and engagement plan. I'd like to push that date back a little bit, please.
yeah,
We do have a couple of things that are coming up. You know, we were talking, we've got a DDA information contact card that we've discussed putting together and putting out to the downtown businesses. I'd like to get that in motion in the next couple of weeks. We have a current deadline on that one of March 31, which is in conjunction with the downtown newsletter as well. I think we need to, I don't know if we would need to have a work session or if we should do it at this meeting, but to look at what do those things look like? How are they going to be produced and put out to the city, to the businesses in the downtown corridor? But kind of get, and let those two things kind of be the basis for then afterwards developing a marketing plan that they will be two of the main products for.
okay. What date do you want on the second to last one?
I'd like to have the marketing plan put in place by end of May. I think that's reasonable. But I think that for putting together these other two items, we need to discuss, is end of March still, because that's only a week. I mean, I can design something, but we need to be able to discuss, you know, kind of how that,
Isn't newsletter me?
yes.
Yeah, Brax and I have talked about the the social media is up and ready, and the newsletter is, I mean, close to it. We just need to talk about it, but newsletter, I'm fine on March 31.
Okay.
I've already, like, designed it, it's just a front and back we just haven't talked about distribution or
Right.
stuff like that.
So we should put that on the agenda for next month?
You can move it if you want, or I can just email it to you guys, and you can take a look and we can discuss it.
But
It's up to you. I don't, the marketing, the other marketing stuff, I'm not sure what that.
if you could send it to, I'd like our push card to kind of reflect so that it's telling the same story more or less as the newsletter, you know, so that we know that everything's kind of jiving.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you say the social media program was finished?
Yeah, they're both, both the Facebook pages are up. We were waiting on the website
Right.
so that we could start,
Pushing
The traffic.
yeah, because
Yeah.
there's nowhere to push them to if they
Right.
want to talk to us or, I mean, we can go ahead and do it with our email addresses and things like that if we want to give people ways to contact us to get about bringing businesses and stuff like that. Brax really wants to focus on posting like open places for businesses to go and reaching out to businesses and things like that, which I think is a good idea.
Yeah.
That's not really my forte, so he would probably want to take over that. He knows a lot of business owners and a lot of business people. I would more be pushing the events and stuff, but I made everybody,
Administrator?
yeah, except for you, Jamie, because I couldn't find a Facebook for
Yeah, I'm
you.
not on
Yeah, so that everyone could push different stuff, I think, but they're up, they're ready to go. Everyone's administrators. I've gotten, there's a citizen with a drone who's taken a bunch of pictures for downtown for us and stuff like that, so we're good to go on our part.
Okay, good,
So,
very good.
so with that being said, do we have access to the email list of all business owners in the downtown overlay?
I have a list of the businesses. I don't know if I have email addresses. It's been a long time since.
So I would think that mailing addresses and email addresses would be paramount.
Yeah.
If we can either get those from the city or if we can, you know, whatever that might entail.
I thought we were gonna put where, not employees, businesses could sign up for the newsletter. Like, I thought we were on our website, that's what we were gonna do, so they could come to us and say,
We-
send me this here.
That is correct. The postcard, though, that we're looking at putting, probably should go to everyone to introduce the opportunity and then have the information on there to say, hey, by the way, go here to sign up to get our monthly newsletter or our quarterly newsletter.
Okay.
Would you agree?
No, yeah,
Okay.
But your vision of the newsletter is that any business could sign up for it?
yeah, just to get it.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
That way we're not
Because it's
sending it to people
electronic,
who
it's
don't
very
want it.
easy, it's
Yeah.
easy to send to whoever wants it. So,
Okay, thank you, that's good news. Making some progress.
good job, Terry.
Okay, 254 Main Street project. I think all of you have gotten your copy of the proposal, but you're aware that we did only get one proposal. And I think you probably agree with me that the cost proposal was significantly more than we had discussed or anticipated. So I think we should have discussion around perhaps what the next steps are. I would like to, well, first of all, I think we have to, if it's the will of the body, we should vote to terminate the current solicitation unless we think we're going to request funding to make an award to that proposer. Just to close it and communicate with the proposer that it has been terminated and we won't be making a award from that solicitation. Does that comport with
Yes.
what everybody's thoughts are?
Do we need to do
Okay.
that formally, or do we?
Yeah, let's take a motion and to close it, and then I'll get with Danny and the proposer to let them know. Okay, we have a motion to close the solicitation.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Okay. Now, next steps. Obviously, we had different views of what we were asking for between us and the proposer. I would like to, if it's appropriate, Paul, to reach out at least to the one that did propose and probably some others that should have proposed to discuss how we might revise the RFP to make it more descriptive of what we're looking for, and hopefully get a new round of proposals.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with this step, you've got a couple options. Number one is you could just clean up and make some edits to the RFQ and put in sort of an expected budget range and tweak some language of it to set the expectation that it is not sort of almost to the level of CD docs, because I really feel that's kind of what you got. It was almost a full zoning ordinance update within downtown. That was not the intent or the vision, so I don't know where the miss is. I've had some conversations with some folks that looked at it that did not put in. And, you can do it one of two ways. A is you can make some edits and put it back out there again and sort of, pre-sell the realities of what you're looking for, and also put in some not to exceed budget numbers. I've made some just handwritten notes and tweaks to the RFQ and the vendor questions that I think would help. But the other thing, and so you can do it formally and then repost the RFQ, or you could also certainly do it informally, and that is just have conversations with Sizemore, who put in for it, and some other folks that we know in the market that expressed interest but didn't submit, and then have one-on-ones with them, and then just get multiple proposals without a full redone RFQ, and then take those proposals and consider them and see if you want to select one of them that you want to recommend to your mayor and council to seek funding to be able to do the project. But at the end of the day, I think just sort of the detail, right? The weeds versus, something is amiss because the size of the pricing envisions a whole lot more than I think what y'all want, what everybody wants, and what I think the RFQ reads. But, I think we can add some monikers that talk about sketch site plans versus, detailed site master plans and those sort of things. And, things have to be scaled, of course. You gotta understand the scale and the scope, but they don't have to be, to what I call engineer architect levels. They need to be scaled to the site. So you got a couple different ways you can do it. You can repost the RFQ after you clean it up again, and then just hand make phone calls to the applicant that applied, and to others that we know express some interest. Or you can informally do it, essentially hitting those same people. It's totally up to you. Because you're not engaging in any services and you're not expending any money, it's not necessary, so to speak. It's professional service. You can pick whoever you want, and then you can come back and still interview folks if you get some additional submissions.
So the only real difference there would be that it would be a targeted ask.
Correct.
As opposed to just putting it out on the street.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right. And you can do both. You can put that RFQ back out there for a 3-week period, but you can pick that thing up and email it directly to folks that you would like to, hear from.
And we know that the RFP that we used was very similar to what Monroe used, and they got a much more reasonable
Correct.
proposal.
Yeah, on a much bigger site.
Yeah.
So that's why I was really shocked. Now, it was,
Me too.
it was several years ago, but not that far ago. It was 3 years ago. But you're talking about an 8.5, 9-acre site, and I think the proposal and the product they got was about 37 or 38,000 off of memory. It was certainly below 50,000. Certainly nowhere near the 80 or whatever that you got back on this RFQ. So something was amiss, and I'm not sure why.
Have you seen, I'm sorry, have you seen the economies of scale changing this drastically in other situations recently?
Well, I mean, of course, just to onboard and stand up a project has its own built-in. But I mean, when you're talking about an 8.5-acre site that came with a resulting product pattern book that was very high quality in that $30-something thousand range for a very site-specific project, just 10, 15 miles east of here, it just kind of begs the question of did folks miss on sort of what the ask was? So it's y'all's call what you want to do, but if you want to keep soliciting input, my general suggestion would be, let's tweak this a little bit, put a not-to-exceed number in it, expected range to be, expected pricing to be competitive with a total budget not to exceed X. Get it back out there on a traditional RFQ, post it, leave it open for 3 weeks, but then email blast it to, to folks that we know inquired about it before, and folks that we think that would, express interest in it again, if it were more specific as to, hey, this is, this isn't a full full zoning ordinance rewrite. This is just a master plan product for this particular, piece of property in downtown. Lord, they looked at this one, I do know. Yeah, no, I mean, we would definitely, my suggestion would be that there's about 3 or 4 firms that I know of, in addition to Sizemore, that I know looked at this, that either gave us inquiry, or had conversations with, and I think we just repackage it and then just email direct blast it to them. Still put it out there, you can still post it publicly, but email direct blast it to them and just say, hey, we're putting this back out there and here's some more details, And I don't mind fielding the calls. Call Paul or call Dana or call Danny to talk this one through. We'd like for you to put in for it,
But that was a shocker.
Yeah.
And we've worked with these folks before. They've spent time in our town.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I ask 2 questions, Paul? One, I agree with you. The proposal I read they sent back looked like they were doing Sizemore study all over again. A whole year's worth of progress, which that was not our intention.
No, I agree with you. I don't think that's the intent. The intent is just a good pattern book for this one, whatever it is, 2-3 acre parcel.
1.38.
1.1, less than 2 acres, excuse me, less than 2 acre
If
parcel.
we were to put out, this is new to me, so I'm asking questions, but if we were to put out an RFQ for somebody to purchase the property, is there any way we as a group can just write out basic instructions and let them spend this money to approach us with what they want to build, and then we have final approval? Or has that been done?
Yes, you absolutely can do that. There's no question about whether or not you can do that. If you want to do that, that is a path to take. I think the logic or the intent here is that this is sort of one of the first projects for downtown, and there's an idea of, sort of, we want to have our guiding hand on it to make sure it heads in the right direction. But you certainly can do that and see what results you get back.
My other question would be, since the one that bid on it has already done work here, can we just go back and negotiate with them?
Absolutely.
Tell them what we want, that we think you overshot it, and we're really just looking for a small lot plan.
Yes, you
Technical
absolutely can do that
specs to
too.
put a bid
I
at.
mean, that would be kind of what we're talking about is like clean up the request and send it to them and the few others that put in inquiries about it, and then just say, this is what we're looking for, call us with further questions we want to put in. But yes, you don't have to put it back out there. You could go just to the sole submitter and say, the only problem with that is that, there's just obviously, there's obviously a practical expectation already set with their submission of this $79,000,
Yes.
$80,000. So again, I just think there's somewhere in the midst, because the idea for this project, I mean, I don't know everything in this world, but I never would have seen
Oh, not that,
expected,
yeah. None of us saw that.
pricing of recommendation of this. Plus, I was expecting to see not 10, but 2 or 3 submissions. So it could have just been that it just didn't get out there enough. It was bad timing. I mean, you never know, it happens. But I was expecting 2 or 3, maybe 4 submissions. So that's why one option is to clean it up and put it back out there, right? And there's no cost to y'all doing that, right?
Yes.
There's the cost of time, but obviously, whereas you sit here right now, you don't have a viable option with what's in front of you, based upon what I've heard and what we all know in terms of pricing. So,
And I had 3 questions, actually.
okay, that's okay.
My third one is this gonna be affected by the current moratorium on zoning and stuff? In other words, putting this property out there, is it gonna be totally restricted to what it's zoned right now? Because of the 6-month moratorium?
That is a little bit more of a complicated question. That really is, It's a complicated question because at the end of the day, the zoning classification that's sitting on the property, while it is owned by the city of Loganville, actually doesn't necessarily affect it. Meaning, local jurisdictions are not bound by their own zoning ordinances, by property that they own.
But we'd have to zone it before we sold it.
That is also a complicated statement, question, and
I
inquiry.
thought it would be.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Potentially, yes, but not necessarily. So I don't want to open up that can of worms and dig into that conversation. But the short answer of it is that I still think that regardless of your moratorium that's in place on zoning, if y'all are interested in casting a vision for what this property wants to be, it still makes sense to continue pressing forward with this idea of an RFQ in whatever format y'all choose.
Yeah, because as I look at it, even if we wanted to go forward with just selling to a developer, you have to give them some kind of vision and some kind of parameters or, you know, what you're looking for there. And I think the more vague it is, the more variation you're gonna get and potentially get something you don't want.
You're
So
absolutely right.
we would still have to write something up, to say this is what we want. And I'd rather have the pros do it than me do it.
Either that person would have to present something and be accepted,
Yeah,
one of the two, you're right.
yeah, which could be a long process. No, we don't like this, come back and do something else. Anybody else have thoughts on where you want to go with this?
I move that we follow the attorney's suggestions, clean up what our expectations are a little bit, and put it back out for public consumption as well as targeted solicitation.
Does that motion include a not-to-exceed price in order to give?
Yeah, and I'm not, but I don't know what that number would be. I'd be open to some conversation about what that number needs to be.
I think 25 grand.
I mean, from our conversation with Danny, Brax and I didn't get the feeling that the city was gonna have a lot of money this year to put anything towards that, so. If it's gonna be something we have to come back this year and ask for money for, I just did not get the feeling, unless they find something or balance something.
I think this one will be a little bit different because it would be a request from us, coming back to the city council who asked us to come and do this, to say, we've done what you asked, here's the cost of it. You fund it or you don't, and we either go or don't.
Are you gonna say it just like that? Cause I'm gonna come and watch.
I would say, yeah, you asked us to do this. We've done it. Here's the cost of moving forward as we see it. We would request that you fund it and allow us to continue to move forward. And it may have to come from reserves.
Okay.
It's, like I said, have said before, budget is all about priorities. And the city council would have to determine where this fits in their list of priorities.
Danny also told Brax and I that the fact that we have $22,000 in our bank account and we haven't spent it is gonna work against us too, because we've had all this money so long and we're not spending it. So I was gonna bring that up during the budget request.
Well, we spent
talk.
about $10,000 last year, didn't we?
Yeah, but we didn't spend all of
Downtown.
it.
We can't be held responsible for what happened before we were put on this board, right?
Well, I think he's saying if we have a balance in our bank account with no plan to use it, asking the city for $45,000 with no explanation of why we just have this $22,000 in the bank and we've been holding it for years is, I mean, he said it in a positive way. I just think even if we don't get money from him, we have to find some way to use the $22,000 we have to do something.
And to that point, Terry, you know, Mike and I spoke with him as well, at a different meeting, and gave us basically that exact same information. You know, but the reality is this body is just now reaching out to put together plans and deal with what its potential is. We're just now at that point. So while I recognize and I understood Mr. Roberts' position about it being maybe difficult to asking for money, I think that the council is also aware that we're just now getting that ball rolling. And so I'm hoping that the council will also understand that if we need particular funds for a particular project or for something they've asked us to do, that they'd be amenable to you know, to move forward. And if they're not, I think to the chairman's point, if it's not a high priority, that's fine. And we, you know, we just move, we keep moving with what we do have.
Okay,
So,
we do need to
understood.
get back to our motion on the table.
Yeah, we have a motion on the table.
We have a motion to revise the RFQ to make it more clear, to put in a not-to-exceed price, saying we want competitive proposals, and we can discuss the not-to-exceed price in another motion. And then advertise it the way we advertised the previous RFQ, and then target some firms that we think are appropriate and capable of doing this work within the price that we set.
That is, yes.
Does that fairly state your motion?
That's restated well.
Okay.
Thank you.
What would be the parameters of what, I mean, it would be, because, you know, you're saying that we have this big broad thing, we're gonna bring it down to here, and then we're going to set a price, and where would that be coming? Is it just guessing? Is it pretty much just?
To some extent, yeah. I hate to say that, but yeah. to some
You want to give an opinion?
Well, we need to see if our motion gets a second, then we can discuss it further.
I would suggest you take a look at putting in the PFQ not to exceed 30,000.
That's the number I had in mind.
I mean, if Monroe did a 10-acre field for 37, it seems like that'd be appropriate. I'm just not so sure on Sizemore if the right person got this thing, or if they just threw out a figure just for the heck of it. I mean, I don't think anybody thought we would accept this. But I don't know how it was handled on that end. But we put out 30, and if that don't work, we'll do something different. I mean, we're just trying to give them a little direction. I really think it's probably a mistake somewhere in the Sizemore organization to come back with this. I mean, you talk about an acre now, 1.2 acres.
Well, and Mr. Mayor, to that point even, I mean, in my head, I had a thought of somewhere in that 20 range. And the reason being is, I understand that there's a lot riding on this particular project, because whatever happens with it kind of sets the tone and the precedent for development as it moves down the street. But at the same time, like you said, we're not talking about an overall plan for the entire downtown structure.
Right.
So it shouldn't be that crazy. I'd like to see us stay well, you know, if we could stay below 20, I'd be much happier, but,
Well, we all would.
well, you know, but I'm also, I'm cognizant of, you know, concerns about our budget. You know, Danny's desire to try to keep millage rates, you know, as
All
reasonable
the
as
time.
possible.
All the time.
And keep taxes down or not raise them at all if we can. But I realize also that this is something that's important. And so, but I also know that our citizens are also gonna be wanting to know, well, what are we getting for whatever X is, however many dollars that is?
Well, till we get it back, we won't know.
And
Yeah.
and you're exactly right.
And I think we can let these firms know, hopefully, Paul, that that this is going to be a competitive procurement. So there's no reason to just put in 30,000 or whatever the number is.
Just trying to give a little guidance to
Yeah.
what your expectations are.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a motion. Does anyone care to second?
Thank you. We see him in tow.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Who seconded?
Jamie? No further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
I think I'm opposed.
Okay,
I'm opposed to.
are you?
Yeah.
And you voted yes? You voted yes? We have a 3-2 vote then.
Your vote. 3-2.
Yeah.
Okay. So approved 3-2.
And just to clarify, was that including that $30,000 cap that was
I don't think it
suggested?
did, it did.
Okay,
His motion didn't, no, sir.
that's
So
what I thought.
Without limits is what you're saying.
No, I think that's
They're gonna decide
another
a little
question.
Later,
But
yeah.
no, right, actually with another, more discussion and another motion here tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're going to decide limit now.
I think, I agree with Skip that, you know, they can do 9 acres for 38,000, they ought to be able to do an acre and a half 3 years later for under 30. I don't think I'd be comfortable going to the council with more than that, with a request for more than that.
And even moving forward with this, it doesn't mean that we're necessarily spending any money at all.
No, you're not. It's just giving guidance.
It's-
Exactly
but-
right.
But it lets us know, if we put this out and no one bites on it, then we know that there's something, we need to go back to the drawing board.
Correct.
Which hopefully would satisfy, you know, you two guys. If everybody in the world bites on it, then we know that we're onto something and we need to figure out, you know, what we're doing. But I think that either way, our money's safe. Our intellectual property, if you wanna call it that, is safe because we're trying to come up with these ideas and ideations regarding this piece of physical property. So I don't particularly see a downside to doing this at all. But, you know, I wanna make sure that we're staying smart as we move forward as well, so. So I think that's where it comes into the conversation about what that number needs to be.
And if that numbers, let's say we were trying to go to 20 to 30, whether if it's a 20, are we gonna get a better, a lot? Is it gonna, is it? you
Right,
get
what
you
do
pay
we,
for.
what do we get
Well, it's
for,
like you get
for
what you
whatever
pay
that
for.
dollar
Somebody
number
gonna put
is?
in more of an effort on a $30,000 bid than a $20,000. You know, it just seems like there's no information to make an intelligent decision on what.
And there's,
Yeah.
well, because again, a lot of this is intellectual, and I work in this space a fair amount with marketing, PR. What I might do for X number of dollars, somebody else might do for Y number of dollars. And you might get a better job or a lesser job, either way. When you're selling a product, it's a different story because you know that a commodity, and just since you're in this business, I'll say a tire, costs X, you know? Are you willing to do it at this margin versus somebody else who's not, or vice versa? So it's
Well,
all
the
gonna be, you know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, you know, and.
I think the main thing, Jamie, is right now you're just trying to piece a bit of information together for you to gather information.
Yes, sir,
I mean, we don't even know what firm we're talking about at this point.
correct.
So,
And we're not going to know the quality of the work that they do until they actually do it. The only thing we really have to go on is their experience in prior projects and quality of the work that they've done
reputation,
before.
yeah.
So if we figure out an educated way to make this decision, we need to write a book.
Right, and until we see what they bring back, we don't know if it's gonna be good money or bad money. But the good news is we're not spending any money until we
Exactly.
see that.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I don't know about Michael. I can't speak for him. I didn't say that because I was afraid about spending money. I understand it doesn't cost us any money, but also, if we don't know, I just don't want to keep spending months on just this. I would just like us to do something. And, that's more of the, I don't want to invest any more time in this because it could be a lot of things, not just, who knows, we don't know anything about it, but I would like to do something. I'm not saying like 254 Main is, pointless. I think it's great, but if we're not going to be able to do it, we're not going to be able to do it. Let's not waste this whole year writing RFQs and getting advice and talking about it when we can do some other things this year. And quite honestly, the city council passed this to us because they themselves could not decide to spend the money, but they're also our biggest critics about spending money. So if y'all want it done, y'all go spend the money and tell them why you spent the money and stop trying to make us try to explain it. Y'all go get your RFQs and whatever they're called. That is nothing about, I understand it doesn't cost any money, but,
Well, I think-
we can do other things as a DDA, which I was gonna bring up when we talked about the budget, because like I said, when we talked to Braxton, Danny was very nice, very kind, he explained so much stuff to us, but there is so much stuff in the budget that, he's gotta balance it, he's got a few months. So, as a citizen, I left that conversation thinking we probably might get half of what we asked for, but maybe not even that. And then it goes back to the same council who's putting stuff in our lap to vote for to approve us to have the money. So it just seems like a circle, and I feel like if we focused on using that $22,000 we have, Julie is here to talk to us about grants. If we can get money coming in different ways and do some other things, then we can take up 254 Main once we've done other things and can kind of, I don't want to say prove ourselves, but, I think all of us in some way have to be getting tired of not doing anything. And there's so many things that we could be doing. And so if we get 10 or 20 from the city and we have 20, there are things we could do with that money.
Well, I think, it's obviously out of our hands now. We'll get what we get.
Right, we
And-
will, but.
And we'll do what we can with it. And I'm not really upset or concerned that we won't get the whole amount of the money. I mean, it's a first foray into asking for money. And I could understand if they said, well, you've got $22,000 in the bank, we want you to use some of that, but I don't want to use all of it. We certainly don't want to work ourselves down to, $100 in the bank and not have any other sources of revenue coming in, so. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's, like I said, it's not about the money, it's just about, let's do something. And the city council put us here and told us, like, they would fund stuff, they would do stuff, they would be involved. Like, each one of us was put here by one of them, but these are the two city council members who are here, the only people that I have, since we've been here, gotten any support on anything we've done or any conversation. It's all happening later, and it's just, I just feel like it's a waste of time right now until we figure some other stuff out. That's my personal opinion.
Michael?
Yeah, the reason I voted no is I would rather see, and I'm not against the RFQ, and we voted and approved it, and I think we need to go with it, but I'd like to see some other options explored of what we could do with this property. One I mentioned was, putting it on a builder to come with us with the ideas. We always turn them down. I've seen some cities that have actually built a shell of the building of what they wanted and then leased it out from inside. Now, that would take the DDA getting a loan and doing it. I know we're new, I know we don't have the credit history to do it, but we would control the narrative on what goes, at least on the front part of 254. The problem I see is that it is a small parcel, and to make it viable economically for somebody to come in here, I'm just having a hard time seeing that. If we're spending all this money for all these things, to come up with a plan for what it is, I'm just not seeing a developer wanting to buy that one small piece of property, unless we got creative some way or another. I talked with Danny and a couple other city managers about it. There's different ways to go, and that was what I was looking at, but Let's see where the RFQ takes us and go from there. But I'm like Terry, it's gonna be another 2 months before we know that. Because if you put it out for 3 to 4 weeks, and then we have the next meeting, then we're talking about May, into the summer, before we know anything about that, so. With that said,
Well, I
that was
would-
my explanation.
I would suggest to you that you come up with alternative plans while they're waiting for the PFQ, and then when you get it, you'll have some information of where you need to go at that point in time. I
That
mean,
we can do.
there's nothing we can't do that says, if this don't work, we'll do this. And also on the budget, Danny does have the job of balancing the budget. That's the absolute truth. However, I'm sure he's going to be as good as he can be, and then there's nothing to say that you guys can't come back, and gal, with a project that you think merits support more than what you've already gotten, and ask again. And I don't think it's ever, in our situation, you gotta be concerned with criticism, but you can't take all of it to heart. You just can't. I mean,
No, I don't think we're taking it to heart personally. I just think that we need to do some other stuff.
I don't disagree. We
to
do a
get
lot of stuff.
Something done. But on a same note, but different note, someone who was watching last month, whenever we met 2 weeks ago, sent me the Brazelton DDA. And they have 6 people on their DDA. I read all about it, and they each have a committee. And they all do different things, and they talk about it at every meeting. So they have, I have it on my phone because I forgot to print it. Or they have 4 committees for 6 people: design, promotion, organization, and economic development. And I think that if we did that, then some group of us could work on 254 Main and then bring it back to all of us in a digestible way so we can make the decision. don't know anything about building or contracting or anything. Like, I learn everything when you guys tell me here, so that's not what I should be on. But I can throw events, I can design, that kind of stuff. That's what I need to be on. Braxton should probably be economic development. You know what I mean? I feel like if we split up a little bit, then focusing on 254 Main every week as a portion of what we're doing would be great. But just all we're ever talking about is 254 Main. I just think we're going to spend a whole year going back and forth trying to figure out where we're going to get the money and stuff. And if it's not there, it's not there. But we've at least accomplished all these other things that we can put some effort into.
Would it be fair and not too much to ask you to lay out that structure for us and suggest what projects might be under each committee?
Yes, I would
Things that
love
you'd like to see
do
us
that.
move forward on?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
Just 254 Main, like, I know it's gonna be a hot button issue, but I also don't want it to be the only thing we're doing, because what if we get to the end of all this time and effort and no one, we still don't get the money, we don't,
Yeah.
worst case scenario. Maybe Danny comes back and says that we're the greatest DDA ever and gives us $145,000, but, worst case scenario is we get $0 and we have 0 support from city council, so, okay, now what are we gonna do?
I would bet you Melanie and I would think that probably's not gonna happen.
Right. Well, she was speaking worst case. She was speaking worst case.
Yeah.
I
Just have to
feel
wait
like
and see.
Melanie can make it happen
Wait and
for
see.
us.
Okay, we've approved a motion to take one more shot at this. And what we have left is the not to exceed amount.
I thought that
Anybody
was in the
have
original
other
motion.
ideas than 30,000?
I thought that was in the original motion.
No, it
It was
wasn't.
not.
Oh, I just put with limits, I didn't put a limit down.
Yeah, with limits.
With
Now
limits, we
we're
haven't
But now we're
decided.
talking
limit.
about what that limit is.
Year 20 and year 30, without just being an educated guess, just take the average at 25. Sounds like the most logical thing, since we have no basis on what to base the number on.
I mean, what you're basically trying to do is give the people who are going to be bidding a framework, and if they can't do it within those parameters, they don't need to send it back. But, yeah, whatever y'all want to do. You just want to make sure that you get something back. So, it's just a judgment call.
although Jamie, I would hate for it to be like, you know, we can do this for 28, and we've limited it to 25, or
Well, if
just.
somebody was that close, you would think that they would come in and say, hey, we got, we know 25, we're going,
But if we say not to exceed 25, we wouldn't even consider anything over 25, right?
well,
You'd throw it
yes
out.
and no. If we limited it to 25, if somebody came and to us and said 28, you're saying that we would have to stick to the 25?
Yeah, and I don't think they would bid if it was 28.
Yeah.
They would say, you said it's got to be 25 or less. Am I thinking that correctly, Paul?
Yes, that's correct.
I mean, it's just a judgment call. It's a competitive bid.
I don't think I don't think hitting the cap at 25 or 30 is going to move the needle in any way in either direction. I would probably err on the side of 30 just because then there's more room there so that if you get a 28, they're still going to put in for it. And then, if you negotiate it down to some other number that you certainly can, but, somewhere in that ballpark seems to be reasonable. It is still just a judgment call. I mean, I didn't think we'd ever see a number like we saw in this first round.
Nope.
And I guess to some extent, Mr. Chairman, whatever we come up with, we could say, well, what if somebody came up with $1,000 more than whatever the gap might be? At some point, we have to just say, this is kind of where we're comfortable and let the chips fall.
And we may not get anything with this, and we may have to come up with another alternative, another strategy.
I would rather see us try and give every opportunity for somebody to bid, and not to come back and say, well, obviously it wasn't 25.
But that's a point well taken, Jamie. We want it as low as we can get it,
Yeah.
but we also need the bids.
And I think there are ways that we can communicate to them that we expect to get multiple bids on this one, so don't, sharpen your pencils.
Is it possible that we should give a suggested as opposed to a cap? That we would look at, say, hey, we're looking to enter into something in the 20 to 30, and it'd be a fairly large range, but
Sure,
you know.
word it any way you want to.
but worded to where it's, we understand that we're probably gonna spend between 20 and 30,
I guess you
and
could
leave it at that.
I guess you
you
could
know?
even put something there that says, but if it's more than this, please still give us a bid. Although that may be inviting them to go high.
Right.
It's all a crapshoot.
Damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Do the two no votes have any thoughts on this?
Well,
Set it at 30,000 and see what we get. As a matter of fact, I'll make that as a motion
All right, we have a motion to set the
for
not
your
to exceed.
RFQ, right?
Yep, not to exceed at 30,000. Is there a second for that?
I'll second.
We got a second? Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. I believe that was unanimous, Michael.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, is there anything more we want to discuss about the 26 budget request? I just put it on here in case.
Oh, yeah, there was one thing if you, I'm sorry, I was typing. Alternative finance sources for us was talked about in ours. I think, Jamie, you can remember. And one thing that was mentioned was, we looked at several budgets. Monroe, for one, uses their downtown events to budget their Main Street program along with their DDA. Now, the city already has theirs going into their economic development here. But one of the things, Danny, it's something to look at. What threw out there was that we might be able to possibly take over, was it movies? And use some of that revenue
He
to
told us
boost
that too.
what we do here. And I think between us, we could work with that and work with the city.
I think movies is a fairly recent thing, right? Movies on the Green?
No, sir.
No,
movies,
we're talking
we wanna
about
use it
filming.
to film.
Oh,
There's
film
filming.
production.
The city, you can, and filming companies come in and working in. I think the city, and this is just off the top of my head, has been charging for parking spaces and everything. But you can also, if they're using city property, you can charge a location fee by the day.
He said they got $60,000, I think, the last time.
Yeah,
And that if we took over managing that, that 60,000 could go to us.
What does managing that entail?
well, my former job had a lot of movies projects, and our department dedicated one person to it. It generated in 1 year in revenue just for off-duty work for the officers, $230,000. And that's not including lot fees and everything. And it really only entails meeting with the movie companies when they make a request and then working out a contract. And I'm sure the city has a standard contract for that they've been using. So it would probably entail one of us working with Christie, who is currently handling it.
It seems to me like that would be a three-party contract, because it's, if they're talking about city
No.
property and city services,
It's not city property because they also have to go to the building owners and
Right.
get their approval.
Right.
So we're not just talking about city property, although they do use the city property to park
Park,
their
yeah.
trailers and equipment and stuff. It's basically coordinating, but what Danny told us was that they don't do the police officer part because
The police officer does.
it's
it.
something off-duty, so we wouldn't do that part like other places do, but we would just coordinate when the movie or production companies want to use downtown, like he had just that day gotten to, but he said the problem is that they want such immediate answers, and he doesn't have the ability to give immediate answers because it has to be, I guess, voted on and all of that stuff, where it wouldn't necessarily have to be through us.
And one of the other larger issues that was a plus for us is, as of right now, production revenue coming into the city is not, it's not budgeted in the plus or minus, it's extra income. Call it, I guess you call it unearned income, or however you want to look at that. And so it's not something that goes against the city's budget. Now, that's a positive, the way Tara was talking about. It also has the potential negative, because it's possible, we don't see it this way, but it's possible that in the next year, nobody might ask to come in and do anything. It's all, like we were talking about with 254. It's a gamble, any way we look at it. If the city's willing to do that, though, I think that it would behoove us to at least see if there's an opportunity there for us to be the point of contact, make it happen, and reap the reward that comes along with it. Because as we grow downtown, which is basically our job, as we grow that downtown and things start happening more and more, I can only see the potential for more productions as opposed to less.
I guess I would just like to hear more about our role in it. Is it simply saying, yeah, you can talk to that business owner about using their business?
No, it's coordinating the
No, it's
whole
not the-
day. Yeah,
Yeah, synchronized.
we will be coordinating everything for them, so.
The only money that we would make would be the use of, what the city makes on is the use of city parking lots and city property.
Right.
Like, for instance, half the parking lot out here, when they film, you could rent that. They've rented it behind before, depending on the days. And yes, somebody does have to coordinate with the business. And I just threw that out there as one other possible source of income for us. We may need to think about others, but that was just part of our discussion. That's why I threw it out there.
Did y'all talk about what next steps on that might be?
No, we just agreed we would do it and left.
Well,
Okay.
you brought up a point that we are a third party, and we need a intergovernmental agreement to do
Yeah,
that.
it's pretty easy. You just do a simple IGA between the DDA and the city as to where the funds go. But you still have to coordinate through staff as to, using
To make
this,
it
this area, is this lot available or is something else happening there that day, those sort of things. But it is commonly used as a revenue source for DDAs, and other type CVBs and things, for y'all to sort of run, not just the filming, but also events. I mean, you know, there's all sorts of different ways for y'all to integrate into the into some of the things that the city's already doing as some revenue sources.
Yeah, he talked to us about events and said that we are welcome to add our own events. He didn't want us to do, he said he could provide staffing, but I guess they had probably gotten burned in the past where someone put on an event, but basically the city did everything and they didn't help and they didn't, but they still got
The revenue.
and called it their event. So he didn't want to put, us to put them in that situation again, which personally, I wouldn't do that. If I was doing an event, I would be the one doing it. So I think that's a great, that's a great way to raise money because that's the, I don't want to say the one thing, but that is one thing Loganville does really well is our events, that we do get people. So if we can get on the city's advertising for events and then do those events, then we can bring some money in that way too. Whether it be through vendors applying and then, you know, doing it or just selling some sort of product, I don't know.
And as I said, I brought this up just food for thought for
Yeah.
tonight and not to take an action item on tonight.
Yeah.
But I think we've come across, you know, a few things in our minds that we could do to become self-sustaining, self-sufficient, which would be a goal, or at least provide, you know, 50-60% of our budget for what we do.
Yeah.
Or use the money wisely enough that we can convince city council to give us bigger amounts so that we can do bigger things.
Okay, good. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, if there's no other old business, let's move on to new business. We, last month, talked about a possibility of finding someone who would help us find find and apply for appropriate grants for projects that we want to do, or to find grants that fit within, you know, our mission and make that another way to bring in revenue. Terry, I think you have a guest here tonight.
I do. Julie, so do you want to go up to the podium? Is that microphone working? So this is Julie Starr, and she writes the grants for my son's Montessori school, and she's been really successful at that. And she also like hosts TED Talks and LinkedIn and other grant writing stuff. She's an expert grant writer, so.
That's great.
I know her through the school, and I spoke to her prior to our last meeting about government grants, and she's really, because currently a lot of government spending is being cut, so she is helping people get grants to replace that money they were getting from the government, so she might be able to help us, and she's here to answer any questions you guys might have for her.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Her
Thanks for being
name's
here.
Julie
Hi,
Starr.
my
Did I
name's
say-
Julie.
STA.
So can you tell us about your services? Do they include identifying and going out and finding those grants, or just helping to apply for grants that the entity has found on its own?
Yeah, I have research tools, several research tools that I use to identify the grants. And I actually, without knowing your specific projects, I already have like 3 really quickly that I came up with that might suit you guys. So like, there's T-Mobile Hometown Grants. There's the National League of Cities has an Advancing Economic Mobility Grant. There's a Georgia Department of Community Affairs Workforce Grant. So just like a couple of quick searches using those tools, and I uncovered some. I mean, I don't know your priorities, but I feel like these are the types of grants that you would want to look into at least.
So once you do a grant, how long does it take for us to get the money?
So once it's awarded, any type of government grant can take like usually 6 to 12 months. Foundation and sponsor corporate grants, those are usually like 3 to 6 months. So sometimes we know sooner. Sometimes there's like a 2-part process, like there's an LOI, And then if we get approved for that, we do the full grant application. So it does depend, but like usually within 6 or 8 months, we have like some answers about if our projects are working, you know, if we're looking in the right area. And when we do get denied for grants, because we will, it's a learning process. So I always reach out and I ask them, you know, why did you deny us? Can you give us any information or any feedback so that when we reapply, we can be more in line with your focus areas or what you're looking for? So like the beginning is usually like a learning process where we're identifying the correct funders and then tweaking our applications to fit those focus areas. But, I mean, we should have something within 6 months. Some indication that what we're doing is working.
Have you ever filed any grants with any local entities like Walton EMC or anything like that?
I haven't in this area. My clients are like all over the country, but I have done lots of work with like local power companies, local like large local organizations that
Good.
provide corporate grants. And also like community block grants I've done. I've written a lot of like state grants, you know. So I think like a healthy mix of grants is important. So foundation, corporate, and then some government grants, like having that mix, I think is a healthy approach.
Well, just an easy question, don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. If you can, just to share, just because you write a grant don't mean you're going to get approved for it. What percentage, and I know it's a hard question, what percentage would you say? 20?
So the national average is 10 to 12%.
Okay, that's a
So-
good answer.
My average, my agency's average last year was 38%. So quite a bit higher, but still, you know, like one in every 2 to 3 grants we will get. I think what makes me successful is not necessarily the writing, but I spend a ton of time on research. So I'm not gonna just apply for, you know, any grant just because, you know, it seems like it would be a lot or whatever. I really dig into it. I even look into like their 990s from previous years, because just because they say they fund something, I want to actually see that they've funded it. So I spend probably an inordinate amount of time, as opposed to other grant writers, on the research on the front end, so that we're investing time in the right grants.
Makes sense.
And if you would, you know, having gone through grant processes with several nonprofit organizations looking for money, explain to me, there tend to be 2 overall ways that grant writers or grant agencies get paid. Would you explain, please, what your process is and
Sure.
how your agency works in that zone?
So the 2 ways that I understand for grant writers is hourly or monthly retainers. So getting paid on commission is unethical. If we belong to the Grant Professionals Association,
Okay.
we will be swiftly kicked out of that.
That's quite honestly, that's what I was hoping you would say.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
that
I
is
was-
that's not ethical. So I work on monthly retainers because I don't like to do like a gig situation. Like I like to form a relationship with you guys. I want to really understand your projects. I want to go to the events. I want to see the sites. Like I want to really understand what you're doing, because then I'm going to be able to communicate that a lot better. So that takes time to do. So that's why I really only work on monthly retainer. I always say a 6-month contract, but it's never that. Like it always ends up being years. So, you know, by the time we get into it, I really understand what your needs are on a very deep level, which means I can do a much better job. So I never write just like 1 grant or 2 grants, because that's really not a very good grant strategy. So if you want to commit to a grant strategy, then, you know, you commit to like a contract, which means we commit to a relationship.
I've not done a lot of grants or been involved with a lot of them, but my understanding is that usually they have reporting requirements. Do you help with those at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do that too. And I mean, I do that because you don't want to do it, but I also do.
That's why I asked.
I also do it because I think, especially for grants that can become recurring grants, the reporting is like my way to say like, hey, look at us, we're still here, and I kind of set it up for the next cycle. So then when I apply for the next cycle, I refer back to the reporting and I say, remember all that like fancy impact I showed you and how great we're doing? Like, and then I refer to it and say, if we had more money this year, we could give you more of that. So I kind of use it as a tool to snowball the grants into future funding.
What would be a typical monthly retainer? That's another tough question.
I think for you guys starting out, and based on what I was able to find, I think starting with 2 to 3 grant applications per month would be fair, and my retainer for that is $1,500 a month.
Would be what?
And we can scale down, we can scale up. It really just depends on your needs, but just on the limited information that I had and what I was able to find, I think that's a fair starting point.
Have you got any collaterals or anything we can look at to kind of check you, not check you out, but kind of, the
Yeah.
way that you guys do business and the way your agency does business, things like that? Is there anything
Yeah, I
that you
mean,
can either give us or send
Yeah.
us to?
I can provide
very much appreciate
references,
that.
I can provide grant samples, I mean, you can call people, anything you want.
So unless these guys were able to successfully negotiate with your company, they'd be looking at something like a $9,000 expense to retain you for 6 months, to see how it goes. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay.
It's also a participatory process, so the more people you guys know, the better I'll do. So I also think, like, if you gather up your networks, companies that you have associations with, things like that, and get some reference letters, I mean, there are ways that you can help me for us to all be more successful too, so. But I provide like a list of everything and, like grant documents that I need. I provide all of that to you, and then we can have like a shared Google file or whatever works better for you so that we can share that information on an ongoing basis.
Do you help like private businesses? Like, could we refer our downtown businesses if they wanted to get grants for something, let's say? Could we refer them to you, like, as, oh, this is our person, call her and she might be able to help you? Or do you not work with small businesses usually?
I have, like, I'm working with a winery right now in Michigan, on like an agro-tourism grant. I can do those. I focus mostly on nonprofits because that's just where the most opportunity is. But if, I'm not gonna say no to helping a small business because I love that. So if there's something available I think that they have an excellent chance at, I would be open to that. But I primarily work with nonprofits.
Paul, would we have to procure these services through competitive procurement?
You don't have to procure professional services generally, but, right, generally the suggestion and advice always is to do RFQs, RFPs, so that you can put it out there and receive, input and responses to solicitations. You're not bound to because it's considered a professional service, though.
Have you responded to RFPs or RFQs from nonprofits?
No. I just usually get hired word of mouth. I don't do much marketing, to be honest.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Do you usually have like a 3-month free sample? That's just my job. I have to ask this question.
You can pay 6 months in advance and I'll give you 10% off.
Well, heck, that's
Wow.
$900.
Oh, that's a good deal.
Yeah.
See that? Got you 10%.
Sounded like we're starting to negotiate.
I got you 10%.
Any
Thank
other
you.
discussion y'all want to
Thank
have
you,
on
Julie.
this, or actions?
No, I think we talked about last time whether we wanted to, I didn't bring my pack again, but remember there was another DDA who did start a nonprofit side of their DDA so that they could get different grants that they were passing on to business owners.
Let's ask Paul to opine on that. DDA is setting up a companion 501c3.
Why?
To get the
Tax-free.
grants to pass them on to,
Not only that, but asking for donations to the DEA, they're not tax deductible because we are not a 501c3.
No, I think they are. Yeah, I'll get you the authority on that. I'm not a tax attorney, but you're not a 501c3, but you are a 501, I think, C2 or a 501. There's a couple of different categories, but as a development authority, it is a tax deductible.
I will say I took
I'll
that.
get you that authority. Let me rephrase that. They're writing off their expenses to you. Now, whether or not a personal donation is going to be deductible or not, I don't know. But let me get you that authority.
The only reason I said it's because I just took that class from Main Street program,
Mhm.
and they said that DDAs are not, so that's why I asked.
They're not a 501c3, but
Well, he said they were not deductible, is what they said.
They're not tax exempt.
Tax-
interesting.
And that's why
I mean,
when
y'all
we were
aren't
looking at last time, they said some DDAs, like,
I'm gonna have to
I
look
looked it
into
up and there's three. One of them is the city of Atlanta though. In Georgia, there are three that have a second part that is a
Yeah.
501c3.
So let me go back to the first answer, the first question. That is adding a bandwidth to you guys that I just don't think that you have, right? We're sitting here talking about, are you gonna be able to get you a $45,000 annual budget allocation from the city council? So can we set up a foundation, all this sort of thing? That's just a, you know, you were concerned about bandwidth for 254 North Main. Like, I mean, that's like, in my opinion, a year 10 kind of idea. So I'll dig into the tax exempt or tax deductible question, because generally donations to city organizations and other type development authorities are considered deductible for tax purposes. So, but again, I'm not a tax professional, I'm not in that field.
But that wouldn't even be an issue for a grant, would it?
No, so grants to private businesses are gonna be few and far between, but grants to governmental or governmental-related entities such as development authorities are very common, and then, of course, grants to nonprofits are very, very common. So grant writing or receiving of grants, being eligible for grants as a DDA is pretty common. There are grants out there for these government entities, and in particular, there are government-funded grants, right? So in the city world, you think of CDBG grants and LMIG grants and those kind of things that are basically pass-through grants from either federal or state funds. And there's those similar type products in the DDA space. And then y'all yourselves then become grant providers in the future as you have a fund. So there's facade grants, you know, there are several cities will do, what do they call it? They call it a community engagement grant. It's very small, but basically if you, as a private business or a local organization, say, we're gonna do a, I don't know, petting zoo on Saturday to get people out to the downtown. There's community engagement grants where y'all vote on them and say, we're giving that organization $250 because they're located within the DDA limits and there. So y'all end up being on both sides of the grant world. But yeah, so there are grants out there, but I wouldn't suggest we start talking about getting a foundation, a parallel foundation running or a 501c3. Let me check on the tax exempt status of receiving donations and money, because I think that there's an exemption. It's 501 something H. It's been too long since I've looked at it, but I'll find the answer for you on that. But yes, y'all can receive grants. They've got to be tailored to government authorities. But y'all are, let's be clear, y'all are a nonprofit. Whether or not you have tax exempt charitable organization recognition under 501c3 or not, y'all are still a nonprofit organization. You are not for profit. You receive, pay no taxes, and you receive no inured benefit for the efforts, but instead you invest any money that you make off of deals back into your mission, which is to promote downtown of Loganville.
Okay. It sounds like from Julie's comments that we might be better off sort of defining the things that we want to go after, what kinds of projects we want to be doing, so we know, she can know what kind of grants to be looking for. Let's give that some thought. Okay? Anything else on that?
No,
Okay,
not for me.
all right. Thank you. So let's move on from new business then into the public comment section. Do we have anyone who would like to make comments tonight? Dan? Please, can you come to the podium? Yeah, over here would be fine. And tell us who you are, where you live, and who you're representing tonight.
Leslie, my name is Dan Curry. I live 607 Berta Court, Loganville, Georgia. Been there for a little over 20 years now. But I'm here representing the Friends of the Library, and we're having a concert, I think y'all may have heard of that, down in Monroe, coming up on May the 9th. And this ticket here will give you information where to go to get tickets online. You have a website right here, and you go on there and punch a little button, and you can purchase tickets. But even more importantly, for those of you who are in business, and I think I've already given Jamie one of these. I think I've given the lady over there who represents the Ford dealership.
Lisa?
Sponsors. Lisa, is that right?
Tara.
You're right there. I was thinking of my
Tara,
daughters.
what?
I got one of each.
Anyway, but this is very important too. One of the guys who is working with this project, he has an office. He's an attorney. I can't think of his name. Rosewood, Rosemont, Rosebud, Rosenthal. I can't- But he's sort of got this challenge going now between Monroe, and for most of you probably know, that's a city a little bit east of here, and Loganville. And, cause you know, this is a Loganville project, benefit concert being held in downtown Monroe. So, it does make it kind of nice, but it also, he's sort of playing this thing. So, guys, I need your help. That's the bottom line right there. And I need your help. We need to get some sponsorships. If it's a $250 sponsorship, or if it's a $10,000 sponsorship. We need that because I think he sort of laid the groundwork today is, you know, it's not so much whether it's dollar value, but it's head count, you know. If he gets a dozen and we get 28 or so, we beat him. And hopefully we'll beat him dollar-wise. But it could be a little bit of fun for us, I guess, doing that. But I do need your help, guys, in selling tickets. I think they've released about 300 tickets online right now. And I don't know, somewhere, I think about 50 roughly have been sold. And that should sell out. If there are any left, they'll be on sale there that evening on May the 9th at the door at $30 a piece. Now, this is a community project. Okay, so, I mean, this fundraiser here is a grand idea. I'm constantly looking, I've been over, I kind of sharing some information with Brandon about, we're constantly looking for grants. You know, I want to give you my business card. When I walk away from you, I'm going to hand you my business card, okay? But I need to talk with you about our organization, maybe something there. Because I like to get grants from corporations. We can build a much nicer library and have very little impact, hopefully, on the citizens of this town. And that's always good, right?
Sure.
It's good. But guys and lady, I do need your help. I need y'all's help too out here. Terry, I know you like to dance and all that kind of stuff and sing, and so, you know, you need to buy tickets. You need to buy tickets for a lot of your family. How many family members do you have? I'll give you a whole stack of these. I'm messing with you now, okay? I think Mellie's already got her tickets. But you live in this area? Snellville? You're just a short drive down to Monroe. I'll tell you what, for a grant writer, you need to have a sponsorship too. I want to give you a sponsorship form.
Dan, you might want to mention, the last time I had one of these galas for the Humane Society, they sold out of tickets fairly early because I couldn't get any.
And, well, that was a reason there now.
Yeah, I know. I knew you was going to say that.
Yeah, but I think they actually cleared for them about $109,000. So, you know,
Big bucks.
I'd be happy to get most anything, but if we could get anywhere close to that, that'd be marvelous. But here again, keep this in mind. As it says on this information here, the doors open at 6:30, I believe it is, and music begins at 8 o'clock. and she sings, it's Bella, it's his, what's that lawyer's name down there? Rosenthal, that's it. His daughter Bella is doing the singing, her band, and she has a wide variety of songs that she'll sing. And no, Skip, she will not bring you up on stage for a joint venture, okay?
Well, I just asked Paul if he was singing too.
Dan, I think we should add that there will be heavy hors d'oeuvres and
Heavy hors d'oeuvres.
cocktail bars and
That's right.
50/50 raffle where you can.
50/50 raffle, there'll be a live auction.
Yeah.
You'll be able to buy liquor, you'll be able to buy guns. I just hope the same person don't buy both of those items. Could be a little bit messy, but it'll be a good night. It's gonna be a packed house. Well, I want to thank personally, publicly, Paul Rosenthal, he and his daughter for putting this on. It's a great event.
It's a great idea.
And also, while I'm up here, if I may, I'd like to mention Morning Mingle tomorrow morning at 8:30 here in the Ag Building. The Loganville Rotary Club is hosting tomorrow morning, so come out and support our local Rotary Club. And one thing else I would like to mention too, if it's okay, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I was out soliciting for this last week, and I didn't get any money on that at this time for that particular company. I did get some money for the Boy Scouts, and I also found out that this guy wants to move his office from just, I'll say right over there. He wants to buy and move on Main Street. So I don't know how you let people know who you are and what you're doing, but he said, how do I get in touch with these people? So I did put him in touch with Brandon. I was hoping the gentleman would be here tonight, but his wife is having some health issues, so that could be the reason. But I would be happy to tell, well, Brandon has the guy's name and phone number, and he might be a good person to pursue.
Yeah.
And I told him about that stretch down, I think y'all call it 254 Main, I call it Pecan Street, that, you know, you can do a new build out there. It could be a new build that looks old, it looks like, you know, Main Street. So, and he also has as an investor for a friend too, so there's a lot of possibilities there. And I'm just stupid enough to play those things out till somebody tells me to go home.
No, that's great information. We thank you for that.
Right.
We will get in touch with him.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. So I hope you all will consider buying your tickets for this important event and consider sponsorship maybe.
Should be a fun night.
If you may know others that would like to sponsor, I hope you'll pass that on to them. So,
Chairman, just since it is
right.
since there is public comment, I'll take the opportunity to say I brought some forms, sponsorship forms and plenty of flyers. And the reason why my daughter is doing this, because she's real passionate about reading, passionate about books. But for you guys as a DDA, the idea of getting a communal location right in the middle of your downtown, I'll just tell you from city planning perspective, all of the things y'all want to do for your downtown community, it's huge. So when you look at traditional new urbanist planning, and when you look at the things that you want to do to revitalize your downtown, one of the biggest things that folks will tell you, the folks we're trying to hire for 254 Main, is that you need communal space, meaning public gathering space, whether it be indoor or outdoor, doesn't matter. And so placing that both indoor and outdoor space of this new library right in the heart of your downtown is going to be a real economic boom and provide the opportunity for further economic revitalization of your downtown. So while the library is important, because personally I think libraries are important, I think our society was built on libraries. Our founding presidents spent a lot of money and time and effort in making sure that our libraries were protected. From y'all's perspective of what you do as a DDA, this particular project of sourcing this new library right in the downtown core where y'all are working on revitalization, is crucial. So it's a great project, not only because I like hearing my daughter sing, and she is a great singer, but it's a great project, a great opportunity to raise some money for a really important project for you guys. So any of your businesses that want to support, they definitely, the Friends of the Library, I know, I've gotten to know several of them that are helping out, including Mr. Dan, will definitely be appreciative of those sponsorships and those ticket sales, and an opportunity to come out and have a good evening.
You bet.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We have concluded the public comment portion of the meeting, and so I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Y'all want to stay, huh?
I'll make both.
I don't think you're gonna get it.
We have a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn doesn't require a second, so all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. We are.